Lewis Hamilton's furious words to Charles Leclerc after Silverstone leave Ferrari in total shock. Stick around to see Leclerc's staggering response. Subscribe only if you want to stay updated with the latest breaking news about F1 races. It wasn't the metallic glint of a trophy under the lights, nor the choreographed podium routine, nor the flashes of cameras capturing grins for the headlines that revealed the essence of what truly happened that wild, rain-soaked afternoon at Silverstone. The truth, the raw, unfiltered truth, wasn't staged for the world to see. It was hidden beneath the storm, pulsing through the strained voices on the radio, bleeding through the mist that wrapped the circuit in madness. This wasn't a tale told by results or statistics. It was written in real time by two drivers wearing the same red, strapped into identical machines, staring down the same clouds, facing the same relentless downpour, yet reacting like they came from two different worlds. As the heavens tore open and the asphalt turned to glass, the grandstands faded, the forecasts blurred, and all that remained was instinct. This was no longer about setups, simulations, or strategy charts. It was about who you are when everything you planned for collapses. Charles Leclerc, brilliant in the dry, always lightning fast with clear skies above and numbers to follow, found himself gripped not by the road, but by indecision. His radio lit up, not with orders, not with confidence, but with a plea. What are we doing? A simple question soaked in uncertainty. That moment, that tone, said it all. He wasn't ready to decide. He was hoping someone else would. Lap after lap, as his tires screamed in protest and the rain painted the surface with danger, Charles hesitated. He stayed out, stranded on slicks while the water rose and his pace plummeted. Every corner became a gamble, every straight a slipstream of regret. His eyes looked forward, but his mind reached backward, searching for the right answer that had already passed him by. The moment demanded courage. It got questions. Across the garage, in the very same machine, Lewis Hamilton wasn't waiting for clarity. He was clarity. No nerves in his voice. No debate in his tone. No doubt in his hands. He didn't glance at radar. He didn't ask for input. He knew. The feedback from the car, the sudden looseness in the rear, the feeling under braking, he read it all in milliseconds. The conditions weren't a surprise. They were a signal. One he had trained for, lived through, thrived in. He didn't flinch. He acted. Box. Inters. No. Not a question. Not a conversation. A command. Subscribe only if you want to stay updated with the latest breaking news about F1 races. And the crew. They didn't need to double-check. They didn't need extra confirmation. That voice, the rhythm of it, the confidence behind it, was enough. Tires were changed with flawless urgency. He shot back out into the chaos like the rain had given him wings. While others tiptoed, he attacked. While the rest wrestled with the grip, he danced with it. He didn't survive the conditions. He dominated them. He didn't react to the weather. He used it like a weapon. Each lap he delivered was sharper, more precise, more devastating than the last. Rivals weren't just passed, they were left in disbelief. His lines were perfect. His throttle control, supernatural. While drivers in front of him slipped and fought with every apex, Hamilton moved like the car was an extension of his instincts. Every sector bled time in his favor. Every move felt inevitable. He wasn't chasing positions, he was claiming them. One by one. Quietly. Ferociously. No theatrics. Just control. Authority. Mastery. And in that storm, he wasn't simply driving, he was commanding the race. His presence on the circuit was magnetic, undeniable, unstoppable. The gap to the podium shrank. The stopwatch started whispering something unthinkable. He wasn't just recovering. He was rewriting the narrative in real time. What started as a strategy adjustment had become a full-blown assault on the front of the field. Not because he had the best car, but because he had the clearest mind. Meanwhile, Leclerc's radio grew quieter. Too little. Too late. He finally changed tires, but the advantage was gone. The race had moved on. He wasn't part of the charge. He was buried in the spray, barely clinging to relevance. He wasn't slow because of skill. He was invisible because of hesitation. The contrast between them wasn't just stark, it was brutal. The same conditions. The same choices. Only one made the right one at the right moment. Only one acted. Silverstone didn't just expose the difference between good and great. It laid bare what separates the decisive from the dependent, the adaptable from the analytical, the predator from the prey. Lewis didn't just outperform, he outthought. He didn't wait for the storm to pass. He became the storm's master. He didn't let the rain write the story. He took the pen from the clouds and carved his name into the tarmac. Subscribe only if you want to stay updated with the latest breaking news about F1 races. What we saw wasn't just a recovery drive. It was a statement of intent, a demonstration of leadership, an example of what happens when a driver refuses to let conditions control him. Fourth place. That's a number. What he did was something much bigger. It was a reminder, a warning, a declaration that no matter the odds, when the race transforms into chaos, the true elite rise. Not by chance, but by choice. Hamilton didn't need perfect circumstances. He didn't wait for consensus. He trusted what he felt. He moved when others froze. And in that moment, under the weight of water and uncertainty, he didn't just choose correctly. He chose decisively. And in Formula One, that's everything. What happened on that soaked, unpredictable circuit wasn't a comeback. It wasn't survival. It was something far more powerful, an awakening. When the clouds opened and Silverstone transformed into a slick, merciless battlefield, it didn't expose flaws in Lewis Hamilton. It illuminated a driver who becomes more dangerous when others are overwhelmed. This wasn't a veteran hanging on. This was a warrior rediscovering his rhythm in the storm, his heartbeat synchronized with every inch of drenched asphalt. The rain didn't compromise him, it unlocked him. When he rejoined the race on new tires, there was no hesitation, no anxious searching. He didn't ask what grip was available. He felt it. Instantly. Instinctively. While others were reacting in fragments, Hamilton was already flowing. Every input was a brushstroke on a slippery, shifting canvas. The throttle was a whisper of authority, the steering a language only he could speak. He didn't need clear skies. He needed uncertainty, because that's where he thrives. The track wasn't a puzzle for him to solve, it was a story he already knew the ending to. He didn't force the car through corners, he invited it. There was no fight, no panic, just relentless precision. He interpreted the changing grip with such fluidity, it felt like he was anticipating the weather itself. No sliding, no scrambling. Just movement that made every other driver look like they were second-guessing reality. As he picked off the competition one by one, it wasn't with chaos. It was with surgical devastation. He didn't charge. He stalked, measured, waited, then struck with speed so well-timed it seemed preordained. These weren't desperate lunges. They were sentences in a statement he was etching onto the race itself. Each overtake screamed not just capability, but certainty. And certainty, especially in a storm, is the most lethal weapon on the grid. And this wasn't his machine. The Ferrari beneath him was tailored for another's hands, built for different instincts. It responded to a driving style not his own. Yet he didn't protest. He didn't blame. He didn't adapt. He overrode. He imposed his will onto a car that didn't speak his language, and forced it to obey. That's not just versatility. That's total command. He didn't mold himself to the equipment. He twisted the equipment around his intention. Further down the field, Leclerc was nowhere. Not absent in body, but in impact. Lost. Silent. Waiting for something to guide him. The same car. The same tires. The same race. But a different energy altogether. While Hamilton was ascending through chaos, Leclerc was swallowed by it. Not out of weakness, but out of hesitation. He wanted assurance. He asked for signals. And Formula One, especially in moments like that, doesn't wait for questions. It only listens to action. The radio silence on Hamilton's side wasn't confusion. It was confidence. While the Ferrari pit wall tangled itself in indecision, he had already made up his mind. He didn't need to be told when to push, he knew. He didn't need permission to lead, he simply led. Quietly, firmly, unapologetically. Leadership in racing doesn't come from meetings or contracts. It's seized in moments when everything is collapsing, and you refuse to. Hamilton didn't drive through the storm. He became it. He didn't navigate the unknown, he shaped it. He didn't survive the changing conditions, he thrived inside them. His pace wasn't just fast. It was inevitable. Inevitable not because of power, but because of clarity. Because when everything blurred, he sharpened. By the time the checkered flag waved, he wasn't celebrated because he finished fourth. He was celebrated because everyone watching knew they just witnessed something rare. Something deeper than numbers. Something greater than stats. A kind of control that can't be taught, measured, or faked. A moment where talent met timing and turned difficulty into dominance. There was no screaming over the radio. No dramatic declarations. Just a subtle, unshakable truth. When everything goes dark, he doesn't disappear. He becomes the light everyone follows. The race didn't shift with noise. There was no sudden roar, no dramatic dive into a braking zone, no sparks lighting up the screen. It changed in stillness. In silence. On a lap that looked like any other. Lap 13. But beneath the surface, the world was turning. The sky lowered, the air thickened, and the circuit, once steady, began whispering danger in every corner. The track no longer held grip, it released it, subtly, cruelly. Puddles formed in places the drivers had trusted just one lap before. Ferrari's arsenal of data, flooded with real-time forecasts, radar patterns, surface temperature grids, tire life projections, and crossover timelines, froze. Not because of failure, but because of doubt. Their machines searched for clarity. They found none. But Lewis Hamilton didn't need confirmation. He didn't beg for guidance. He didn't stall in uncertainty. He moved before the moment announced itself. Not because he gambled. Because he knew. He felt the difference through his palms. Not through screens. Through instinct. He sensed the subtle slip exiting turn 4, the soft traction loss through Abbey, the uneasy push into Brooklands. They were small signs, but for Hamilton, they screamed. And with that scream came action. Quiet, precise, immediate. No debate. Just a call that cut through the static like a blade. Box. Not a question. Not a conversation. A verdict. That word wasn't shouted. It didn't need volume. It carried something heavier, conviction, authority, control. And with that call, the entire shape of the race tilted. While others processed the conditions, Hamilton had already conquered them. While strategists still analyzed, he'd executed. He didn't look for the moment. He became it. His pit stop came 2 laps before anyone dared. And when they did, it was already too late. The time lost was irretrievable, not because of performance, but because of hesitation. Charles Leclerc, brilliant, sharp, devastatingly fast, was stranded in a fog of hesitation. His car, equal in potential, became sluggish under the weight of indecision. His talent was trapped behind the mist. Spray clouded his vision, but it was uncertainty that truly blinded him. Over the radio, he reached out. "Should I pit?" The words weren't bold. They were tentative. He asked again. The team didn't answer quickly. But worse, he didn't act. He waited. And in that pause, in that sliver of inaction, he surrendered the outcome. The gap that followed wasn't created by machinery. It was born from a difference in mindset. While one driver responded to the storm, the other dictated terms to it. Hamilton didn't need the most advanced tools in the paddock. He didn't need a detailed graph or a perfectly timed instruction. He needed only the car beneath him, the feel of the surface, and the voice inside that's never let him down. That voice doesn't hesitate. That voice doesn't ask for backup. It makes the decision before the data catches up. Ferrari's system is sophisticated, refined, elite. But it can't replicate what lives in Hamilton's blood. It can't match the timing of a man who has seen this movie before. Soaked, slippery, punishing, and written its ending. Istanbul, Fuji, Hockenheim. Moments that weren't won with pace, but with presence. And Silverstone added another line to that list. Not because of an overtake. Not because of a crash. But but because of a breathless moment of brilliance when everything else froze, and he moved. The difference was invisible until it was unstoppable. When Leclerc finally made his stop, Hamilton was already gone. Not out of reach. Out of time. What Leclerc lost wasn't just track position. He lost the race before it could even be fought. Because while he searched for permission, Hamilton had already answered the question. Not with words. With action. The elegance of Hamilton's choice didn't come from risk. It came from certainty in chaos. He thrives where others doubt. He pushes when others pause. And when everything goes blurry, when the track twists into something unfamiliar, that's when he is clearest. That's when his decisions cut through steel. That's when he becomes inevitable. You can't train that. You can't simulate it. You can't build it in code. You either have that voice, or you don't. And Hamilton, he is that voice. Charles Leclerc had everything at his disposal. The same car, the same tools, the same updates, the same wind tunnel data. The same power underneath his right foot, the same grip, or lack of it, beneath his tires. Everything was aligned, on paper. But motorsport doesn't reward equality. It rewards control, intuition, certainty in chaos. It rewards the one who, when the world blurs in rain and unpredictability, steps forward without flinching. And that wasn't Charles. He had the equipment, but not the presence. He had the pace, but not the pulse. He had the access to greatness, but not the grip on it. As the conditions deteriorated and Silverstone turned into a minefield of micro-decisions, Leclerc's rhythm dissolved. His voice, heard through the radio, lacked weight. He wasn't issuing commands, he was floating questions. Requests. Hints of uncertainty. Is the crossover close? What do we think on tires? It's sliding on entry. Comments that didn't clarify, they clouded. He was in dialogue with the situation, waiting for answers from somewhere else, somewhere beyond himself. And when you wait in Formula One, you lose. You don't get the chance to think. You get one to act. And he didn't seize it. He hesitated. And in that hesitation, the window closed. Lewis Hamilton didn't wait. He didn't ask. He didn't wonder. He observed, calculated, and executed. His words were not speculative. They were absolute. Tell me when the window opens. I'll manage. That line wasn't just reassurance. It was a coded message to the pit wall. I'm already ahead of this. I've got it under control. I don't need more information. I need the go signal. It wasn't noise. It was leadership. In a storm of doubt, his voice was a compass. No panic. No confusion. Just clarity sharpened by 2 decades of pressure-cooked decisions, and 1,000 scenarios played out in his mind before they ever happen. The car didn't change. The track didn't shift between the 2 drivers. The difference wasn't in what they had, it was in what they did. Leclerc wrestled with uncertainty, unable to shape the moment into something useful. Hamilton bent the moment to his will. The SF-25 was just a machine. But in Hamilton's hands, it became something more. It became a statement. A force. A mirror showing the difference between potential and authority. He didn't just drive it. He absorbed it, molded it, made it respond like it had no choice. Leclerc was asking the car to cooperate. Hamilton was commanding it to obey. Inside the team, there was no need for speeches or analysis. The contrast was undeniable. The debrief room didn't need raised voices. The telemetry had already spoken. The behavior on track had made the distinction louder than any debate. One driver reached for answers. The other was the answer. One was hunting for grip. The other made it irrelevant. One was looking for the right moment. The other created it. Hamilton didn't need special treatment. He didn't operate from entitlement. He operated from experience, instinct, and complete emotional stillness. While others blinked in the fog, he stared right through it. His awareness was complete. His decisions, irreversible. And when the team watched him maneuver through the chaos, passing cars, managing temperatures, delivering consistency lap after lap, they weren't just seeing a race. They were seeing someone who doesn't just survive pressure but thrives in it. Someone who doesn't just understand the moment but owns it. The difference wasn't time on the stopwatch, it was time in the mind. Hamilton was ahead not just by seconds, but by certainty. He didn't check the weather radar, he felt the air. He didn't wait for the pit wall to decide, he gave them a reason to believe. That belief, that trust, it's more powerful than any engine map, any upgrade package, any pit strategy. Because when a driver radiates conviction, the team follows. Not because they're told to, because they want to. Leclerc is talented. He's fast. He's brave. But Silverstone exposed something no lap chart could show. It revealed who shapes the team's destiny when the path forward disappears. It revealed who turns confusion into momentum. It revealed who speaks and who gets heard. And Hamilton, he wasn't louder. He was sharper, more deliberate, more decisive. Not because he's perfect, but because when the lights go out and the unknown takes over, he becomes something else entirely. A guide, a force, an anchor. That's not just racing. That's mastery. Every lap Lewis Hamilton completed at Silverstone was not just another step toward the finish. It was a lesson in dominance, in foresight, in total mastery under pressure. His movements weren't impulsive or instinctual. They were deliberate, controlled, and choreographed with surgical intent. He wasn't reacting to the circuit. He was reading it like a map he had memorized in another lifetime. While others were adjusting corner by corner, Lewis was 3 steps ahead, already planning his next strike, already executing passes with frightening ease before rivals even realized they were under attack. On the other side of the garage, Charles Leclerc wasn't just fighting the conditions. He was battling confusion, chasing answers that wouldn't come. Stuck behind slower cars, tangled in traffic, wasting laps trying to outbrake drivers he should have breezed past. Every attempt looked rushed. Every movement felt forced. The more he pushed, the less control he seemed to have. He locked brakes, missed lines, hesitated at moments where commitment was everything. His frustration echoed in every gear shift, in every radio message filled with rising tension and uncertainty. He wasn't just losing time, he was losing touch. After the checkered flag dropped, the differences between them became impossible to overlook. Hamilton stepped out of the car with the calm confidence of someone who had taken a machine and bent it to his will. Leclerc, drenched in disappointment, offered explanations that sounded hollow even as he said them. He spoke of instability, of visibility, of a setup that didn't translate from the garage to the track. But everyone knew those weren't the real reasons. The truth had already been broadcast to millions. The same machinery had been given to both men. One elevated it. The other was trapped by it. There were no speeches inside the Ferrari garage. No need for drama. The realization hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Engineers didn't speak louder, but their eyes lingered longer on one set of data. Mechanics moved with a different rhythm around one car. Strategy heads took mental notes they didn't need to write down. Hamilton hadn't asked to lead. He didn't campaign for respect. He simply earned it. Not through rhetoric, but through relentless execution. He didn't demand authority. He made it inevitable. Silverstone didn't shift the championship standings in any seismic way, but it shattered illusions. This wasn't about finishing fourth or collecting points. This was about shaping the hierarchy. About deciding, silently and permanently, whose voice would echo in future design meetings, whose feedback would carry the weight of truth, and whose intuition would become the guiding star for what Ferrari is becoming. The battle wasn't external. It wasn't against Red Bull or McLaren or anyone else. It was internal, invisible, more brutal than any wheel-to-wheel duel. A quiet war for influence. For the future. Charles came into the weekend as the driver with more podiums, more data points, more history in red. But when the lights went out, history didn't matter. Hamilton didn't bring statistics, he brought control. He brought presence. He brought something deeper than experience, inevitability. He didn't outperform Leclerc. He overshadowed him, without needing to win, without needing to speak. Ferrari isn't just a racing team, it's a living legacy, an institution built on mythology and memory. But moments like this slice through all of that. They reveal who the team truly believes in when nothing else matters. And in that moment, in those soaking, pressure-soaked laps, Hamilton was more than fast. He was trusted. by the car, by the data, by the team. Even if no one said it aloud, they all knew who had stepped into the role Ferrari didn't realize it needed filled so soon. Leclerc is talented. His connection to the team is real. His passion undeniable. But Ferrari isn't chasing emotion, it's hunting certainty. And in the middle of a wet British afternoon, Hamilton became that certainty. He didn't win the race, but he changed everything. Without drama. Without theatrics. Just precision, clarity, and an iron grip on every second that mattered. Now, the decisions inside Maranello will start to look different. Not officially. Not obviously. But subtly. Quietly. Priorities shift. Resources tilt. Listening habits change. Because trust, once earned, cannot be ignored. And Hamilton, without asking for control, now holds it. No stopwatch can measure what happened at Silverstone. It wasn't a lap time. It was a power shift. And everyone in red felt it. Something is brewing inside Ferrari. It's not loud. It's not written on whiteboards or outlined in press releases. But it's growing, pulsing through every meeting room, every late-night debrief, every nervous glance exchanged in silence. It lives in the spreadsheets, in the lap deltas, in the tire wear graphs, in the split-second decisions replayed over and over. It isn't speculation. It's not rumor. It's reality. And now, it's impossible to ignore. Over the final 30 laps at Silverstone, Lewis Hamilton didn't just finish ahead of his teammate. He didn't simply outperform him. He delivered a cold, methodical, brutal demonstration of everything Ferrari thought it knew, and everything it might need to reconsider. 17.8 seconds. That's not a margin. That's a message. On the same rubber. In the same chassis. Facing the same treacherous weather. While chaos unfolded and strategy fell apart for everyone else, Hamilton remained a force of nature. No panic. No hesitation. No questions. Just answers. And that number, nearly 18 seconds, is haunting the factory. It's echoing through every simulator run, every engineering huddle, every data packet passed between departments. No one says it out loud, but it's all anyone is thinking. Because it wasn't about pace alone. It was about presence. It was about direction. It was about who rises when everything falls apart. It was about who sees the invisible. It was about instinct you can't teach, awareness you can't code, composure you can't manufacture. And Hamilton delivered all of it, not with noise, but with ice-cold control. Meanwhile, Leclerc, a driver sculpted by Ferrari's hopes and polished by years of belief, found himself trapped in a familiar nightmare. A flash of brilliance, a moment of doubt, and then silence. The tires faded, the strategy unraveled, and he didn't grab the wheel of the situation. He waited for instructions. But at Ferrari, time doesn't wait. Opportunity doesn't ask for permission. And while Leclerc hesitated, Hamilton took over. He didn't need confirmation. He didn't need to be told the rain was coming or that the grip was vanishing. He felt it, adjusted, executed, and disappeared. And now the whispers are turning into decisions. Quietly, relentlessly. Behind closed doors, a new map is being drawn. Not based on loyalty. Not based on legacy. Based on control, trust, output, and leadership. The kind of leadership that doesn't flinch in the storm. The kind that doesn't collapse when the variables get ugly. Hamilton didn't just show speed, he showed structure. He wasn't just fast. He was inevitable. Ferrari isn't debating raw lap time anymore. They're evaluating who shapes the garage. Who holds the engineer's attention when they speak. Whose voice realigns the entire team when pressure mounts. They're watching who rewrites the race when everything starts to burn. And in that moment, there was no ambiguity. Verstappen is dominant. McLaren is resurgent. But those stories are irrelevant if Ferrari can't solve its own identity. The real competition is no longer on the timing screens. It's in the soul of the team. And Hamilton, with every measured call, every razor-sharp adjustment, every second carved out of nowhere, is becoming more than a driver. He's becoming the cornerstone. Not by demanding it. By earning it. This isn't about headlines or heroics. It's not about glory laps or dramatic overtakes. It's about who changes the feeling in a room. who turns confusion into clarity, who takes a failing plan and turns it into a result. Silverstone didn't offer a trophy, but it offered something more permanent: control. And Hamilton took it with both hands. Now, the balance is shifting. The minds behind the next Ferrari project are watching closely. The designers, the aero department, the power unit team. They're already adapting to a new voice, a new energy, because one driver is guiding Ferrari through chaos. And it's not the one whose name is painted across the merchandise. It's the one who arrived not for legacy, but to build it. Hamilton didn't win that race. He didn't need to. What he captured can't be measured in podiums. What he seized was belief, authority, gravity. And now, Ferrari's center of power is tilting. Quietly, permanently, one relentless lap at a time. There comes a rare instant in a racing driver's life when they stop being dependent on the perfection of machinery and instead become the perfection the machine needs. When the car no longer defines them, they define the car. It's no longer about setups, upgrades, or simulations. It's about instinct, awareness, timing so precise it feels almost supernatural. Some drivers reach this plane briefly. A precious few live there. Schumacher did in the wet misery of Barcelona. Senna carved magic out of Dunnington's chaos. And now, in the storm-soaked spectacle of Silverstone 2025, Lewis Hamilton may have reached that same untouchable realm. Not because he dominated the timing sheets. Not because he lit up the broadcast with overtakes or bold radio calls. But because, when the rain fell like war drums and the tarmac turned into glass, when uncertainty ruled and voices on the pit wall went quiet, Hamilton didn't panic. He didn't wait. He didn't ask. He decided. Without hesitation, without noise, without needing validation. He became the one constant in a race that shredded logic, burned strategies, and exposed weakness in even the sharpest competitors. He didn't react to the chaos. He orchestrated calm inside of it. While engineers stared at weather radars, unsure of which tire to trust or which strategy to abandon, Hamilton was already 2 corners ahead, seeing things no algorithm could predict, trusting something far older and more precise than data, his own instincts forged in decades of championship warfare. He read the chaos like it was written for him. Every downshift, every brake point, every steering input told a story, one only he seemed to understand. While others clung to plans, he wrote a new one in real time, etched into every apex with surgical intent. It wasn't loud. It wasn't cinematic. But it stopped everyone. Not because it was flashy, but because it was flawless. The most unforgettable moments in motorsport don't always come with fireworks. Sometimes they come in silence, after the cars stop, when the pit lane falls still, and people look around with that stunned expression that says, "Did we just see that?" That was Silverstone. The moment where Ferrari didn't speak, because they didn't have to. Every mechanic, every engineer, every strategist felt what had just happened. Not a win. Not a miracle. Something rarer. A truth. The realization that, finally, after years of questions and collapses and what-ifs, they had someone who didn't just survive pressure, he thrives inside of it. And the contrast couldn't have been starker. On the opposite side of the garage, Leclerc found himself once again slipping into that all-too-familiar pattern. Not through lack of courage. Not through absence of speed. But through that cruel gap between talent and timing. Between knowing what to do and doing it when it counts most. He hesitated. He asked. He waited. And in Formula One, when you're thinking instead of knowing, you've already lost the moment. Ferrari isn't built on emotion. It's forged in fire, in dominance, in trust that doesn't come from hype or headlines, it comes from action. Schumacher didn't need applause to become the center of the Scuderia's universe. He earned that gravity through 1,000 ruthless decisions made in the heat of battle. Hamilton is earning it now, the same way. Not through sponsorships. Through execution. Lap after lap, storm after storm, showing them not what he's worth, but who he is when the world caves in. He's not waiting for the team to change. He's changing it simply by existing within it. Conversations inside the garage are sharper. Eyes are more focused. Hands move with more purpose. No one's talking about hope anymore. They're talking about him. Not in quotes, not in slogans, but in glances exchanged after every lap, Every sector split that defies what should be possible. They're not following orders anymore. They're following belief. A belief built not on theories, but on moments so clean, so precise, they leave no room for doubt. This isn't a resurgence. This is a rewriting of the code. Not a new chapter in Ferrari's story, an entirely different book. He's not adapting to their methods. They're adopting his. Not because he demands it. Because they've seen what happens when they don't. There are no more questions in their eyes when the rain starts falling. No more hesitation when strategy unravels. There's just a glance at the telemetry, a brief breath, and the understanding that if Hamilton is still in the race, then so is Ferrari. He's not shouting. He doesn't have to. The message is everywhere. In the way the team resets faster than ever. In how pit calls come sooner, clearer, more confident. In how everyone, from mechanics to top brass, now walks with a sense of urgency that didn't exist before. It's not magic. It's presence. It's clarity. It's leadership without noise. And when the checkered flag dropped, and the engines faded to silence, nobody needed a podium celebration to know what they'd seen. They'd watched a master perform under conditions that exposed everyone else. They'd seen the difference between a driver who needs control and one who is control. Silverstone won't be remembered for champagne. It'll be remembered for a quiet revolution that began not with a scream, but with a whisper. A whisper that echoed louder than anything else all weekend. Because the greatest in this sport don't chase greatness. They become the reason it exists. And now, Ferrari knows exactly who to trust when the skies fall. And the rest of the grid? They're not racing against Hamilton anymore. They're racing against inevitability.